welcome back, everybody. And it's my pleasure again to introduce our guest. And Billy Korshit's sitting across from me, and he's my co-host. My name's Dan Copeland, and this is the Between Three Rivers podcast. And today, do we want to chat about anything? What do you got in mind?
A topic of some kind? Yeah, I like having little intro topics with everybody.
Okay. Well, let's introduce
Dr.
Raiman, and then we'll have a little conversation, and then we'll segue over to you.
Perfect.
So our guest today is a guy by the name of Paul Raiman. Paul is a colon rectal surgeon, and he and I are very intimately connected. And I'll let him tell you what he told me on the phone a few weeks ago. But we invited Paul in because he's been through some challenges. He had a great career, and we both are actually from Michigan. And he was born and raised in Grand Rapids. I was born and raised in Jackson, and I think we were both at the same time in Kalamazoo. He was at the school for the smart kids called Kalamazoo College, and I was at Western, where the partiers were. But we were all right, and we were next door to each other. And so we're gonna come back to you in just a moment, Paul. But we typically like to start the show with a little bit of conversation about current events or anything that's going on. So feel free to chime in. Billy, what do you got going on?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I was kind of thinking about this the other day, and with you being in the medical world, I was reading an article on just like microplastics and how they're in kind of drinking water, and how it's affecting our bodies. Like one of the samples they gave was in girls, they're getting their menstrual cycle faster now because of all the plastics. And they're saying because there's some estrogen in plastic, is what the study said.
Huh.
So I guess I was just curious on what you guys thought of health and wellness, and in that area of a lot of people. There's a lot more information out there now that people that are not in the medical world are reading. And I'm curious what you guys read and what you guys think of what's going on today.
Are you paying any attention to that stuff?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be very, very honest. I, with my neurologic situation, had to retire 2012, went into the photography thing that I'm sure we'll discuss. So I do keep, I do read, but not nearly to the extent as when I was directly involved in medical and surgical practice.
Sure. Yeah.
I think one thing, Billy, that, and you know this as well as I and Dan, there is so much media out there, and you have to be very, very careful of what you're reading and the true information behind that information. I should say the true data behind what's being said. Even when I was in surgical practice, people would come in and from the internet, doctor, I've got this disease process, and these people say that this is a curative situation, and you have to say, well, okay, this is 50 people that were selected by this person to say that eating this particular food cured them of their disease process. And I said, and honestly, that doesn't really mean much at all. What you need is this, double-blind controlled study where you have 500 people here and 500 people there. This 500 people do this 500 don't, and compare, their cure rates, et cetera.
Right.
And so I think that's really critical. I'm not downgrading anything, but you do have to be very careful,
Sure.
particularly with the explosion of social media.
Right. And that was kind of my point. It's like there's so much information that's just been given, and where is it coming from? What are the studies? What are, things like that.
I don't want to make this all about my illnesses, but a few years ago I had melanoma on my arm.
Interesting.
And so the dermatologist did the surgery and took a big chunk out of my arm.
Wow. I had no idea.
And it took care of it. I didn't have to have any chemo or radiation or anything. But in the process, he did tell me, he said, you need to eat clean and you need to drink clean water. And I didn't know what that meant. And I was like, oh, so you mean bottled water? And he goes, absolutely not. Do not drink bottled water. That's the worst you can drink. And he knew it. I bet you it's been probably at least 10 years ago.
Wow.
And he was talking to me about water back then.
Yeah.
So I keep it to make it look like I'm drinking it, but I really typically don't drink out of it.
So you drink out of like city water or?
I'll drink tap water.
Tap water, I mean,
in Fort Wayne, because I think tap water here is very good.
Right.
But otherwise, I'll drink it out of a cooler.
Yeah.
You know.
So my wife always makes fun of me for this, but I found this place in Fort Wayne that sells 5-gallon glass water jugs. And so I get the glass ones from like some mountain or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And the whole family has it, and I think it helps.
Glass, not plastic.
Yeah, it's a big, heavy
probably,
glass jug.
Yeah.
That comes in. Yeah. Comes from a truck.
Well, you don't want to drop one of those things.
Oh, I'll tell you what, they're heavy. I mean, I can't. Yeah. I'm not gonna be able to do that forever.
You got a few more years. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. But it's like everything. If you, to me, anything you put in your body is some sort of poison. And it's just a matter of how much poison do you want to put into your body.
Right.
That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So let's get into our discussion here with the good doctor who took his time out of his day to come over and talk to us.
Yes.
So Paul, thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
My pleasure, but the situation that you folks have undertaken is, really, I think it's so cool and so important as part of the growth of Fort Wayne. Fort Wayne, since I arrived here in '89, has recently made such an explosion. It's just so wonderful to see. I mean, this is a great town.
Yes.
But this energy of downtown now is so nice to see.
It's like a different place.
Absolutely.
It really
is. Yeah, it really is. Amazing.
And we bring guests in like you, and it's just so awesome to hear those type of things and hear from you and things of your experiences. It's for us, it's just as cool. So
yeah. Well, you've experienced it for about the same amount of time as me. I came in late '87, and I mean, you didn't want to go downtown. I was telling Scott earlier at the airport, they had these little half-circle Quonset hut places, like old military barracks, sitting out in front of the airport. Do you remember seeing those here by any chance?
I don't.
No?
Oh my gosh.
No.
I mean, I just thought, oh my gosh, where am I?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
well, you got a few years on me then too. I was born born in 91.
A few years, yes. Yeah, so just a couple. Just a couple. Yeah, so you're from Grand Rapids.
Correct.
And so tell us about that. Was your dad a doctor?
He was actually a general surgeon.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that kind of, I'm sure, influenced my decision. It's funny that I did that, but none of my kids, after they saw my lifestyle, said, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. So
And which lifestyle are you talking about here?
being a surgeon.
Being a doctor, really?
Just the hours.
Hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Dan sent me your bio. Did you make that just for this show?
Yeah.
Without even seeing you, if I was in the industry, I would have hired you. I mean, I was like blown away with all you've done. So I'm excited about this to talk about that.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, and the good thing about Billy is his questions are all great.
Well, I noticed from your last show that, yes.
I try to do my homework, just like you were looking me up. Google's a good thing sometimes.
They're very.
So let's dive into that seriously. Like, so how? I mean, your dad was a surgeon. Did you just know like right away? What age was it when you were like, hey, I'm gonna follow the footsteps?
It was interesting because I really had a big interest in marine biology and marine exploration. And I think I mentioned in my bio, it initiated with the sinking of the nuclear submarine Thresher. I think it was in '63 or something like that.
Whoa. Did you go see that?
In the newspaper, right?
Yeah.
And I read about how they were exploring with bats and scats and stuff, and read about that. Read about Jacques Cousteau, and once I did that, wow, this is kind of what I want to do. But with my dad's involvement in medicine, particularly surgery, really had an interest in animal anatomy. So I dissected anything I could get my hands on. I mean, sounds gross, but anyway.
It's a little wacky there.
Yeah. But I really, animal body, and particularly, the human body is so fascinating. I mean, it's incomprehensible. How can little teeny cells, in a conglomeration in our brain make us be able to talk, think, have memory? To me, I don't understand it.
Yeah, no.
I mean, and so, anyways, when I actually went to Kalamazoo College after I got out of high school, I had an interest in marine biology, but a big interest in medicine. But after discussing with a bunch of the biologists who were kind of going towards marine biology, the need and market was not good at that time. And so that just helped direct me towards medicine, which is what I pursued at Kalamazoo College. And
did your dad try to steer you to medicine?
No.
He did not.
Not at all.
Was he pretty busy, like you said, the lifestyle? Was he
not nearly as busy as I ended up here in Fort Wayne, but he was busy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to jump over that, marine biology, and I remember being in school and there was a few kids that were selected to go study that, go abroad and things like that. Do you feel like that's like kind of like why you're like, hey, I'm liking it in the animals, maybe I got to go to the human side of things? Is that why you're like should going towards the medical side, surgeon?
I think it was seeing my father and what he did, and the fact that helping people, saving lives,
right,
was a real impetus. But throughout my advancement in medicine, I really directed myself towards surgery because I saw, number one, I had such an interest in animal anatomy. And number two, as a surgeon, when a person's in trouble, you go and you do something, and it's more or less definitive. Either, like with let's say a cancer, you will hopefully resect it, they do well, but you've done something that at least is going to help them. Whereas medicine, a lot of that is chronic management. And that's just not my forte. It's not my personality. I want to get in there, do something, and something more definitive than.
Right. So how does that work? Like, do you decide from an early point in studying where you're like, hey, I don't want to go into the medicine side of things, I want to go surgery? When does that happen?
Really about your third year in medical school, when you start taking elective type of courses or experiences at the hospital. One of the big experiences I had, I went to Wayne State in Detroit, and of course they have a very busy trauma service there, as one would expect. But I had the opportunity to work with a Dr. Lucas and Ledgerwood, who were the head of the trauma service there. These people were amazing. I mean, the lives they saved, the number of people they saw, and just their mindset of medicine and what you're really doing. Absolutely incredible. And honestly, this sounds crazy, but if I did not plan on having a family or that type of avenue, I may well stayed in Detroit and done trauma. But to me, it would have been that total commitment in practice and that's just my personality.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of trauma surgeons in Detroit that are happily married, this, that, and everything. Unfortunately, it would have consumed me that's where I would have had to direct myself.
Do you feel like you had like that adrenaline kind of rush when you were at that trauma night?
No question.
Yeah.
Is that why you felt you shouldn't go that route? What caused you to say, wait, this isn't?
That wasn't kind of what my goal in life to become strictly dedicated to my profession. I wanted to be able to have a family, have a life, do other than surgery. But I think I mentioned my resume I had. It was interesting. This Dr. Ledgerwood, a female trauma surgeon, fascinating person. But I was doing a case with her at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it happened to be a gentleman who had just robbed and killed the person he robbed, and then the police went after him. He got shot and brought him into the emergency room. We were operating on him, so we first had to just go in there. He had multiple bullet wounds in his liver and pack things off to stop bleeding. And while the anesthesiologist was resuscitating him, she took me out in the hallway and said, Paul, I bet you're wondering what the hell we're doing. Here's this person who killed someone, and according to the police, and here we are working so hard to save his life. Doesn't make any sense at all, does it? And I just said, well, that's interesting. And she said, but you have to understand, that's not your position. Your position, you're a trauma surgeon, you're a surgeon, your position is to save this person's life. The legal system, et cetera, is going to take care of the rest. We don't have any information, we don't know if this is true, false, whatever. That's not our position. Your thing is to do what you can to save this person. And boy, that just stuck with me. So, wow.
Right. Who are we to judge when?
Exactly.
Right?
And, you don't have all the facts. Here's your job. You do it the best you can.
And even if you had all the facts, it doesn't change anything you do.
You're absolutely right.
You still have a job to do. And that's interesting.
So you became a colon rectal surgeon.
When I first came to Fort Wayne, I was actually a general trauma surgeon, and a very busy practice. And after a period of time, had some issues with the practice, plus really kind of decided to become more specialized in what I did. And with my involvement in general surgery here, got to know Dr. Musgrave and Dr. Edlund, who were the colorectal surgeons. So I left Fort Wayne, went back to Grand Rapids, which had a colorectal fellowship at Ferguson Hospital. Did my fellowship there and was honored enough to be asked by Edlund and Musgrave to join their practice. And, people will have to understand the medical and surgical community of Fort Wayne is absolutely top-notch. Excellent medical care in this community. And even within the colon and rectal surgery practice, we're really at the top end of things, particularly in terms of a private type of practice, not associated with the university and all. One of the big things was, I believe Fort Wayne was one of two institutions in the United States that started what's called intraoperative radiation therapy, where people, particularly with rectal cancers, would receive radiation, and then when we did their surgery, we'd take biopsies where that cancer was, and then irradiate that area if any cancer was found in the surrounding tissues.
Wow.
Well, one of two, I think, in the United States to initiate that. So
technologically, is Fort Wayne also at the very top of?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Both medically as well as surgically.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
I feel like you and others in the community are taking a stance on, I need to keep learning.
Oh, no question.
You know what I mean? We can't just stick with what we know.
You're absolutely right,
You bring things in from this hospital, and you learn how to use them, and you learn more from them, right?
And then bringing in new partners with the new technologies, that from the universities and incorporating in your practice. But you're absolutely right.
Innovation,
you have to be, you're a student all the time.
Yeah, it's funny because you go to so much school, but then after you're not only paying off debts, you are learning and learning and learning. It's constant.
Yeah, it's a shock because after all this training, you come out and you think, I know everything. I could handle everything. Boy, you learn really quick that no.
Yeah. And is bodies, are they all different?
Absolutely.
In every different way? Like you
Absolutely.
did all the animals that you dissected, they're all different.
Yep.
And so it's kind of same with humans?
And no question. Yeah. And that, sometimes that's a surprise, like how my area of expertise was particularly the colon, but the blood supply and how that, and sometimes it is different in different people. And if you don't realize that, you can get into trouble surgically.
So you find out pretty quickly.
Yes.
That everybody's a little different.
Yep.
So I don't want to belabor my illnesses, but you and I met in the ER at the Parkview facility on Randalia Drive. 22 years ago, when I had a colon rupture.
Right.
And needed emergency surgery. And so you were the doctor on call. You were the lucky guy who got to come in and open me up and take care of that problem, which you did a fine, fine job. And I will never be able to thank you or repay you enough for that, because I'm sitting here today to talk about it. Mm-hmm. And so we met then. And but before that, in your history, you were also experiencing some health concerns and issues that have changed your life over time dramatically.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that, Paul? And what is that story?
I have inherited from my maternal side of the family a condition called hereditary spastic paraplegia. And it's a neurologic situation that acts like you have a tumor compressing the lower part of your spinal cord, and you lose basically sensation and function of your lower extremities from muscle spasticity. And it's what's odd is that we did not know that this existed in the family, and when I started getting into trouble with this, kind of investigated family history, and Dr. Stevens here in town, the neurologist, and myself kind of, worked through this and finally came up with this diagnosis, which was established with a blood test that demonstrates this particular chromosomal abnormality. So it's a progressive disorder, as you know, when I met you, I was walking around pretty normally, et cetera, but over time started having to walk with a cane, then a walker, and now finally a wheelchair. And that's just with those disabilities and some associated medical problems with that. I had to retire in 2012.
Did you feel like, tingles like during your practice where you're like,
oh, absolutely.
Where you had to get the blood tests?
I started becoming, noticing a problem really when I was an intern. So right after, finishing medical school, and I didn't understand it at all, just some symptoms. I actually saw, when I came to Fort Wayne in general surgery practice, did see an individual, actually an orthopedic person. They did a EMG studying the nerve, and they thought it was probably a nerve injury from an old football injury in high school type of thing. Mm-hmm. It involved my left leg, but then these symptoms crossed over the right, and so saw it.
Yeah, and there's nothing you could have done about it, nothing you can do about it. It's just like
it's symptomatic relief, correct.
You said you did some research in your family history.
Mm-hmm.
Did you discover anyone else who?
Absolutely. Yeah, actually, I'm certain my mother probably she unfortunately died early from breast cancer, but she had gait problems. She had other medical problems that we kind of thought that was the issue. But then my maternal grandmother was wheelchair bound, and I knew that.
Okay.
And then found out that on one of my cousins on the maternal side actually had 2 children who at a very early age started manifesting some of these problems.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that's what kind of brought that forth. And
Did you ignore it when you first started
Absolutely.
feeling stuff happening?
yeah, yes.
Yeah,
So-
because you're young and you're like, well, it could, like you said, it could be a sports injury. It could be,
Yeah,
Well, and you were busy.
busy.
Well, that's
Yeah.
the thing, and one of the things that really brought it to bear was, particularly when I was in my residency, was a lot of my friends were running marathons, and I thought, well, I'm gonna do that, and so I went out and started training, and man, when I hit about 2.5 miles, my legs would just lock up.
Oh, wow.
And, I would just have to sit. And, I thought, God, you wimp. You just got to go over a longer period of time of training. So.
That'd have been frustrating, though,
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
And, as I said,
having answers.
Unfortunately, ignored it until later on when it became really much more apparent.
Yeah.
How when you, I mean, I can't imagine what that does to you emotionally when you're looking at that thinking, oh my gosh, this is a serious problem and it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. Do you mind talking about how that impacted you?
I think that's one of the really big points of, that I like to make with people is, and I think, I mentioned this too in my bio, that, a lot of people have a lot of disabilities and problems that, they face throughout their life. And what's critical, I think, is that you come to face that, you have this situation that you're going to have to deal with somehow, some way. Take a path in terms of trying to identify that problem, how it's going to impact your life, your career, etc., and try to, change your life or whatever to be able to work with this condition present. As I said, I was really fortunate enough that I had this interest in photography all my life. And so when I started having more problems, kind of saw that this was coming, became more interested in photography, this and that, such that when I had to retire, that's what I just kind of jumped into.
And how difficult was that decision to say, I can't do this anymore?
It had evolved over a number of years that when I retired, I was ready to retire. In fact, my neurologist said, I can't believe, he thought I should have retired about 5 years earlier than I did. He said, I can't believe you did what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And so when I did, I was ready. And what was really fortunate is that at that time I was still able to, ambulate with a cane or whatever. So me and my wife, Cheryl, were able to, do some trips and things that, now I would not be able to do.
Good for you.
So, and she's been my godsend through all this.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, without her, I would, presently, I couldn't do the things I do.
If I had thought more about it, I would have invited her to join us on the show today.
Yeah, that'd been fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Dan, how long ago was your surgery?
Yeah, that was 22 years ago.
22 years
I think
ago.
it was, in fact, it might have been on Labor Day 22 years ago.
Okay.
This
Yeah, I
past,
think you're right.
yeah, I think it was. Because I'd been in the hospital, it's a long story, but I'd been in the hospital and really sick with another problem, kidney stone issues. Then I got out and the kidney stone flared up and it got caught and it was a disaster, really. The fact that seriously, the fact that I can sit here and talk
Right.
alive is pretty amazing.
Yeah. Was it pretty bad when you,
He
got to
was-
see him too?
He was
Yeah.
in real trouble. I mean, he was in real trouble.
Right, right. So then, that's 22 years ago. When were you done with surgery? With
2012, you said, right?
Yeah,
2012?
2012.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's-
So yeah, I mean, you You stuck it through.
Oh yeah,
That's great.
yeah. As I said,
So let's go then. Your photography. You started. In fact, before I don't want to forget this. If someone wants to see your work, where would they see that?
it's a couple of different things. Number one is I do have a online site, but I'm trying to get out of the online sales routine, etc. At this point in time in my life, I love to do photography. I love to show, my images, have people come in and see them, etc. But I'm not, thank God, trying to make a living doing this. Yeah. Do I like to sell my material because people enjoy it? Absolutely. I mean, I love to think that something I've either shot or created is going to someone else's house to enjoy it. There's nothing better in terms of
it's awesome.
an artist to do that. But so I'm getting out of that. I do have a site. It's called Pere, P-E-R-E, photography, one word, 2.com. But in the very near future, that's going to go bye-bye. And I'm going to just, it'll be under a Pure Photography as an online site, just simply of pictures. And if people want to contact me, because when you do these online sales nowadays, you have so many different media, paper, acrylic, metal, canvas, different sizes. It takes the fun away.
Right.
So now
it becomes work.
I'm honored enough to be a participant in what's called Gallery O2 over on Broadway, which is part of this Broadway art district that's developed over there.
Nice.
And that was developed by John Kelty and Brian Robertson, both artists, and they converted this old building into this gallery, which is absolutely gorgeous.
So you display some of your work there.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it rotates through there. They have what's called a First Friday in conjunction with all other galleries in the area and some restaurants, etc. And about every month they rotate some of the images that I do and other artists. Right now I'm the only photographer there, but they have really and this is all local artists that are amazing. It's absolutely amazing what this town has to offer, and until only recently really blossomed with these various galleries.
Sorry, one more of these great questions. Your work is nature, as at least as far as I can tell from what I've seen. I think probably on Facebook. It's mostly nature. In fact, I saw a recent one with an eagle. Was it an eagle? Sorry,
osprey.
An osprey.
Nice.
An osprey.
Yeah.
I don't know the difference. But it's beautiful photography. I don't know how you did that. And how does the wheelchair impact your ability to take the pictures you want to shoot?
That's a great question.
See,
there
that was. I'll tell you what. That was
Sorry,
actually my question. So.
Yeah, of course it was.
It's had a huge impact. Back in the good old days, I'd hike in 10 miles in Glacier National Park to hit a lake that's known to have grizzly bears. Well, I can't do that anymore. So, yes, it's had a large impact on what I shoot. But in some regards, it makes it more interesting because of my access to these areas. I've really got to think about I'm not just snapping pictures. I have to figure out how I'm going to get to what area to get what angle and this and that. Fortunately, Cheryl is oftentimes my legs in terms of carrying all the crap that to shoot this things. And then, I do more like macro photography where, small bugs on plants or things like that are accessible. I do in our basement of our house, I have a studio where I do shoots, so portrait shoots and things like that.
So would you say that, with art and everything, is it more of like your interest in the outcome, or is it more of the interest in like being creative, coming up with something that like maybe no one else has done, or you know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. No, and I really like the creation. part, particularly now with these situations. But even in the nature photography, there are so many things that are beautiful in nature that you can just simply go out there and take a picture, and that's gorgeous. And I call those beautiful pictures. Is there anything problem taking those? No, but what I like to do is create something above and beyond that, a certain angle, a certain lighting, some other component that makes that special.
Right. You can tell the story of the photo.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And as I said, every picture has a story, such as that osprey. I caught him one, he looks like he's about ready to pounce because that's exactly what he's ready to do. Another osprey was coming into his fishing lane, and he didn't like that, so he was going to go and let him know, which he did.
How far were you from him when you were taking those pictures?
It was funny because this was down in Florida, gone into a parking lot just to look at the ocean because I was thinking of doing some sunset pictures. And all of a sudden this pine tree, maybe, 100 feet away, all of a sudden he lands up there. And I happen to have a telephoto lens. And
how big is that lens? Like, how long is that lens? A couple feet?
That lens is about, it's a 400 millimeter, but a lot of the stuff I take with a even bigger lens.
Yeah.
Just to get the clarity of the
well,
images.
It made it look like you were really close.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I don't. We obviously we can't show it right now, but if we can splice in a shot of that you have that.
Yeah, if you have a digital image, we'll throw it up on the podcast. You can send it to us after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I recently this summer has been incredible with the Northern Lights.
Oh yeah.
And particularly in Michigan, we have I have a place up in Michigan on the Pere Marquette River, so I do tons of my nature photography up there.
Yeah.
But we were fortunate that we're just south of Columbia City, and we knew that the Northern Lights were supposed to come out this evening. So Cheryl and I found a farmer's field and parked off to the side, and sure enough, and just got some incredible images. It was really neat.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you what, my son and I, he always likes to have a story after, books and stuff like that. And I've switched it a little bit. I'm like, because I'm running out of stories. But we do this like video of, and there's a bunch of them like on BBC, YouTube and stuff. And it's about nature and animals. Last night, this one was a fox, and it was in the winter, and it was getting field mice, all this stuff. I don't know if you've seen this, but it was amazing. This fox, like, they said it feels the earth move, and it's not so much the mouse. And then it like jumps like 10 feet in the air. It's probably like 3 feet, but jumps up and just dives down in the snow and pops out a mouse.
Wow.
Yeah.
But only gets one every 75 pounces or something like that. But I don't know. There's just so much to nature.
A lot of work involved in getting one of those things.
One of those, yeah. But there's so much nature, I think, that like the youth could learn from. Like, I feel like you trigger this for me, like, nature and things like that. They trigger creativity in different ways. But the youth misses it, I think, sometimes.
Well, I think, a lot of people, just take it for granted. And,
right.
And that's understandable. That's just something that isn't of particular interest to them. But one thing with this problem, it's very interesting in terms of people that their reaction to it. I think a lot of people are kind of intimidated by, this problem in terms of going out or doing things and et cetera. But I'll tell you, then there's other people who just jump on the wagon in terms of making it work for you. Mm-hmm. And in terms of this nature photography, I have a guide friend up in Michigan, Larry Rainey, of this guiding service up there. And, he and I've been fishing with this guy for like 25, 30 years. And so he's seen my progression of this. And here's an individual, rather than saying, well, Paul, I'm sorry, you got this problem.
Too bad.
Too bad. Mm-hmm. He modified his boat.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
He did. He modified his boat so I can still, is it difficult? Yes. Does he complain? No, he makes a joke out of it, you know. But
That is
he
awesome.
gets me in there, and he's set the seat so I can still go up and do my steelhead fishing.
There's a company in Fort Wayne by GM, and they take trucks, GM trucks, and make them handicap accessible. It's called All Terrain Conversion, and we make some metal parts for them. And this thing is awesome. It's got the Lambo doors, everything. And what he started it for was because he loved hunting. And he's like, I'm not going to take a minivan out to go hunting or something like that. That's all that they had. So he's the owner, and he started this, and these things are sweet.
Yeah.
They're so amazing.
Oh, it's incredible, the advancement. We do have a handicap accessible van that I can actually drive into, and I have hand controls, so I can actually drive it, and then I can get in and put the ramp down and get out.
Right.
Haven't done a whole lot of that yet, but the hand controls are really nice because I really feel very confident about driving that way and have had no issues with that. So
Yeah, and it gives you the freedom to
absolutely and get out and do things.
Yeah,
and you were a surgeon, so you're good with your hands. So that makes sense. There was something in your bio that I could not pronounce. When you went to Germany,
Californienschönsanlage.
Holy moly! I literally looked at it, I was like, did you like word vomit on that?
Yeah, that was, as I said, that whole experience of what's called foreign study through Kalamazoo College was one of the most influential experience of my life. And what you do is it's your junior year, you do 2 quarters, and I was lucky enough that I could speak German through my classes at Kalamazoo. I could speak German fluently, so I had this ability to go over there and actually live with a German family, but work in this. It's a nuclear research center is basically what Kernforschungsanlage means. I worked in the medical division where they were doing radiation therapy on mice with cancer cells that we had injected into them, so they had cancer tumors and doing radiation. But so that was fascinating in itself, but it gave me the opportunity to meet some absolutely incredible people throughout that area and throughout Europe. I mean, I just can't tell you. And seeing yourself, as an American, seeing how the European community sees Americans, yourself, kind of shocking. I mean, very shocking.
Yeah, right.
And there were a lot of things that I found out about myself that I didn't like. Yeah, so I came back quite a different person than when I went.
Right. I think everyone should travel for that reason.
Yeah.
It's like you see something in someone else that you never would have seen too. So.
But an amazing experience.
Right.
What did you see that you didn't like that you changed?
Ooh. Great question, Dan.
That is pretty
No,
good.
that is a very good question. Probably thinking in terms of knowledge that a lot of things I thought I was really knowledgeable of and could address, and particularly just the people, the politics of Europe. And you found out that, boy, as an American, yes, I knew everything about, particularly in that day and age, that I felt I knew everything about America, and therefore I knew everything about what was going on in the world. And I knew zero about what was going on in the world.
Yeah.
Right.
And the politics.
So it's like a big smack in the face.
Oh,
like,
my
oh
God.
gosh, wait.
And the people.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have no clue as to what the rest of the population of the world is going through until you,
Yes.
witness it firsthand.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest thing that, you're not so damn smart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Funny because I was in Ireland not too long ago, and Boy, you got that feeling from those folks too. When they start talking to you about your own political system and the candidates, it's amazing how tuned in they are to what's going on in this country.
But it's vice versa too. Like we talked about social media and everything. Everyone kind of knows a little bit about what's going on with everybody now. And I think the more you know, the better of a person you can be too. So when you're in those conversations, you're like, well, yeah, but also know this, it comes down to what you know, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So going forward, you're going to continue your photography work.
Absolutely.
And you can still travel to do that.
Mm-hmm.
What have you not shot that you're hoping to get? Is there anything that...
One thing I'm really looking to do is with the cameras I have, I've done mostly still shots. I'm going to try to do particularly some nature photography videos, one of which I really want to try to capture is, let's say, for instance, the osprey when they're actually diving, hitting the water to go after a fish, for instance, actually getting that particular shot. I've tried to do it with still photography, but, that's truly very, very difficult. So that type of thing, I like to do lighting, like portrait photography with different types of lighting that show off people's different characteristics. There was a photographer, a German photographer by the name of Helmut Newton, that he did just some amazing things. And there's particularly like David Bowie. He did some photography of him when Bowie was young.
One of my favorite artists.
Oh, yes. And if I could mimic, that type of work, I'd feel as though I've made a grade.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right.
Yeah. Do you have any trips coming up that you're
Actually, we're headed down to Florida for a period of time in January, and really hope to, do some more work with that.
Nice.
As I said, we have the place up in Michigan, and we spend a lot of time up there, and I really kind of, it's funny because when I could get around better walking, man, I'd go all over Hell's Half Acre looking for, these great shoots of animals, etc. And then find out that by, our deck is really close to the Pere Marquette River. Just sitting there with and being quiet. Sometimes I wear camo gear. Mm-hmm. Just have my best shots are sitting on my deck, with the right camera and lens. And
now, I've spent a fair amount of time at the Barothe Lodge.
Right downstream.
Right, Barothe?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. What a beautiful, beautiful place.
Yeah.
Yes, just gorgeous up there.
Well, I'll tell you what. I know a guy. And he's actually in this room. He does publications. I feel like some of these photos would be really neat in a publication.
Well, actually, Dan actually did that in 2016. If you recall, we met at what was allowed then, the Zoo Brew at the Children's Zoo.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And we met, and he saw that I was having problems and wondered what I was up to. And actually, through the business people, did an article.
Yeah.
A Change of Focus was the name, which was
nice.
Very nice, and had some of my images in that publication.
I like it.
So that was a great idea.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Now next you'll have your own little book, right?
There we go.
All right, I like it.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Do you have a book like that?
I've worked on that, like particular images, birds, beasts, those kind of things. But now, particularly through Gallery 02, I do really plan on gearing in on that in particular. I mean, I have, hundreds, if not thousands of images, and really putting that together.
Yeah. And we always have it like sitting on a table, coffee table, just like a book with some nature photos in there.
I know you didn't come here to sell your work, or at least I don't think you did.
No.
maybe you did. But again, your work is displayed now at the O2 Gallery on Broadway.
Right.
and it's also on that website that you said is going to be changing. So, so that may not be all that relevant at this point. So people can go there to the gallery and see your work. And
Correct.
Can they get your business card or can
what probably one of the best ways to follow things is, and since a lot of people are on that, are either Instagram or Facebook. On Facebook it's just Paul Raiman. On Instagram it's Pure Photo, Pere Photo,
PRE, like the Pierre Marquette?
That's exactly correct. And so I have a lot of images there, and as I said, I'm going to develop a different type of website. Just have to find the right means to do it, because everybody who who does websites wants to convert it into a selling medium and
E-commerce or something, right?
And I'm just done with that.
Yeah.
You know,
That's good. They know where to find you, right?
right.
So you're doing this more for your own pleasure than making a buck.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
Good, because I
as-
want to buy some and I want to pay a lot for
Yeah.
it. Billy and I should get some sort of big discount.
And as I said, the thing I really like is, like in the Gallery O2 and other, I used to do all the art fairs and things like that.
I remember seeing you out at Covington.
Yeah,
as a
and
matter
that
of
was, that was so
Long time
nice. Great place, met a lot of nice people. Did I sell things? And Covington I did very well at. But what I really like is people to come in, discuss photography, discuss the images, and and it's funny, as a surgeon, if someone came in and said, your surgery sucked, I would have really taken a very big offense to that,
Right.
Yeah.
and challenge them as to what's that all about. Now, if someone comes and looks at my photography and says, I could have done that with my Brownie camera. That really sucks. And now, not everybody likes a Picasso.
Right,
So what
Right.
don't you like about it?
Right.
What would you have done differently? So it's a discussion, and I really enjoy that. I really, really enjoy people's reactions to what I've done, good or bad. And it's fun when something comes in, they start discussing your picture, and then you find out that they're one of the photographers for the Chicago Tribune or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's whoa,
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a lot for me. That's where I'm at. Being a student, still learning, but having people enjoy what you do. And I said, there's just nothing better than having them like an image enough that they think it's beautiful enough and something they wish to share with others in their own homes.
Yep.
Yeah, very nice. Well, I'm going to the studio. I want to go see what's
Yeah,
there.
we got to come
Yeah.
pop a bottle of champagne, walk around like, we're fancy or something.
You guys are fans.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm really glad that you became a surgeon and that you came to Fort Wayne and that you took care of me.
Well,
so
it was my pleasure. And as I said, Fort Wayne is an amazing medical community. It really is. Continues to be. As we all know, there's been some ups and downs, both with with the main hospitals as well as others. But the care delivered here is just great.
Yeah.
Excellent physicians.
Well, I just thought it's really cool to see you recreate yourself to create something too right now. That's
No, thank you.
that's really neat to hear.
And I really hope that helps others who develop. We're all going to develop problems. Be able to adjust their lives and what they do, so you're not sitting at home, twiddling your thumbs, going, "God, this sucks." I used to be able to do this, this, and this. Rather than do that, take some avenue that interests you. Might be something as simple as cooking.
Right.
That'd be fine. Another couple I know weren't interested in it, but bought one of those Mercedes extended vans.
Oh, the Sprinter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spurs, yeah.
And now they're traveling all over the United States and just loving it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's just great.
Do you have kids?
Yes, 2 girls and a stepson.
And where are they?
Laura is 38. She's in Columbus, Indiana, as an attorney, doing very, very well. She's did primarily family law, but now is kind of matriculated into injury and things like that. She actually pro bono does helps with the veterans in terms of any legal problems. She
Yeah, nice.
takes care of that.
Very
for,
nice.
Yeah. So she does that.
Yeah, she have family? She have kids?
No. And she unfortunately found that she has inherited this problem, and in view of that, has decided not to have children, which I think that's pretty,
And then the other kids are.
Then Stephanie is 34. She's the gal who was at the Fort Wayne Children's Zoo when her significant other was transferred or moved actually to Detroit. She followed.
Oh, yeah.
Detroit Zoo is a union, so you have to do the get in the union, blah blah blah, which she did, and now is the zookeeper for the as I said, the giraffes. She
Big
loves
job.
it.
It's a tall job.
She loves it. I mean, just amazing. And her interaction with animals is almost scary.
Yeah.
To
You got to
watch.
have like a sense. It's
it's been amazing to watch. As I said, I could give examples, but it won't. But it's just crazy. And then stepson Donnie from Cheryl's. We both flunked our first marriages. So, but
Practice marriage.
there we go. But fortunately, found each other and have had a wonderful life together. And her son Donnie, my stepson, is a CPA for a firm called AES in Indianapolis, and really likes it, loves it. So
your daughter in Detroit has so far not shown any signs of having the issue?
no signs. I don't, because she and her husband a long time ago made a decision that they do not plan on having children. I'm not sure she's going to get tested unless she starts becoming symptomatic.
Gotcha.
But the thing is as Billy said, it's one of these conditions that, if you just treat symptoms, as they progress, you take care of that just to make yourself more comfortable. But at this point in time, there's nothing, in the future, there's no question that they're going to be able to do, chromosomal splicing, fix that genome, and,
So you got it at the wrong time.
Exactly.
Well, and you can be a pioneer, for finding solutions with your knowledge too. So that's great.
Well, thank you so much for joining us
Well,
today.
it's my pleasure. This has just been a wonderful opportunity. And as I said, congratulations to both of you for initiating this type of program in the city. I think it's so cool that there's so many people who've had such an impact on this town and their impact isn't realized. So congratulations on providing that avenue.
Hey, congrats to you, man. You've
Well, thank
done
you.
a great job.
Yeah.
Thank you.